In this episode, Catherine Fitzgerald shares with so much transparency and a lot of empathy her leadership journey and what it really means to lead from her hindsight perspective as being a CEO of major organizations, nonprofit organizations, turned leadership coach. So listen carefully because I know this episode is going to help you so much in your leadership journey. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast. Our mission for the show is to support leaders who are climbing that ladder of success with warnings, practical tips, and techniques from leadership experts to highlight not just what it takes to be a leader in this age, but in the process, build your confidence to show up more powerfully in your role. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, founder and CEO of Audacious Concepts, Inc., a boutique consulting firm providing audacious solutions to nagging and persistent people issues clogging the revenue pipeline of your organization. From optimizing talent to reducing conflict and improving communication, our brain science, people data tools, and expert coaching help you find the elegant solution to get the job done with more ease and less stress. Now, let's join in on the conversation. Welcome to this episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and my guest today is Catherine Fitzgerald. And let me share about Catherine, and then we're going to have a quick little chat with her. So Catherine Fitzgerald is a Californian UCLA grad and the founder of Catapult Leadership Group. She is an experienced executive, natural leader, speaker, writer, and a passionate business coach with more than 35 years of experience and a proven track record in developing people, performance, and profits. Her focus is on building and scaling strong businesses by helping employers to engage and align their employees. She's served in many capacities in a variety of industries, from banking to health insurance, and from choral music to feeding the hungry. The common thread throughout Catherine's life, both personal and professional, is servant leadership. And we're going to dive into that because our topic today is going to focus around leading from behind, leading, being that leader that leads, pushes people in front and leads them by coaching them through the process. So thank you and welcome, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Alicia. It's so good to be with you.
I love, we had some chats before we got together, and I love your philosophy on leadership. I love your philosophy on how you have developed as a leader. And so I'm going to start there. Just give us a little bit more background of your leadership journey.
Well, I'll start out by saying that I think that you and I kind of bonded over this, that early in life, if you are an achiever, you're labeled a leader. Mm-hmm. And you're left kind of to your own devices to figure out what that really means. And for me, it was always that I had to be the best, and I had to work hard, and I had to get the accolades, collect all the gold stars. You did it right, you did it perfectly, all those things. And then you become a leader in an adult concept. And I have to say that I learned the hard way that I didn't do it well.
We're going to unpack a little bit of that in a moment.
Yeah. So in the process of, developing, we are given these parameters of leading people. And I think for me, it was, my concept was, I did this really well, so just do it like I do it, and you'll be good too. And the reality is that nobody tells you that you give up the right to be the doer, the achiever. When you take on the leadership role, your role becomes the developer of doers, the person who runs out in front and really moves all the obstacles.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. And sorry, I don't mean
Did you want me to? No, it's okay.
I did want to ask you because I wanted to ask you because when you step into a leadership position, like when they've given you a leadership position and now you have people that report to you. Um,
Hmm.
and you said you didn't do that well. So how discouraging was that?
Well, I think that in the rearview mirror, I mean, I achieved things, but
Mhm.
I look back at it in the rearview mirror and I think I could have done that better with an eye on the people more that I was leading, more than the achievement that needed to happen. And because I think when your ego or your value is tied up in what you do and
Mhm.
how you perform, then you kind of lose sight of, the people become a, a piece of the pie, but they're not the focus. And I think I look back on it now and regret that. So, some of the things I've done, you mentioned hungry, feeding the hungry. I was the CEO of Catholic Charities for the diocese that I live in, and for 5 years, and it was in a financial turnaround when I got there.
Mhm.
So I went through a lot of trial by fire in
Oh,
that they were 4 years behind in independent audits, and they were had 42 checking accounts that hadn't been reconciled in 3 years, and they were financially and reporting wise about to fall off a cliff. And so we went through a lot of
yeah.
tumult, and people worked really, really hard, and we did it. And they were, right, the ship was righted, and the agency is continuing. And we served many, many, many thousand people in that
Yeah.
environment. So success was not really the determining factor when I look backwards and say I didn't do it very well. What really is, when I look back, I didn't really focus on developing the people and really removing their obstacles and understanding that if I allowed them to develop to their fullest potential instead of trying to say, here's the bar and here's how you should get there,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
tends to look like micromanaging.
Right, right.
And so even though my intentions were good and positive, I could have done it better. And
Mhm.
so now as I look back at my age, as we were just talking about,
Yeah.
um, I feel like I could have done so much more if I had had more a better idea of what real leadership is about. And I think some of
Mm.
my leadership heroes are Simon Sinek and Brene Brown. And, I've kind of immersed myself in that and worked really, really hard on understanding the psychology behind being a good leader
Wow.
and what it means to give people the freedom to lean into their own strengths if they are given the outcome that is expected and then supported,
Hmm.
as opposed to here's your list of to-dos.
Right, right. And this is what I need you to have done by this date and this time.
That's
And
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Um, so the work that you're doing is really building confidence with leaders, the work that you're doing now with that
Mhm.
hindsight approach, knowing that, oh, we really need to help um, create more leaders under you and give them the freedom uh, to become a great leader instead of just kind of directing the pieces and telling you need to do this and you need to do that. That's not leadership. So how do you help your clients now see that that's how they need to transition into leadership if that's what they've.
Well, it's really interesting. I don't think any leader, I mean, it's kind of like when you're trying to go through marketing and figure out what your story is, and you really don't know what your gift is. Everybody around you ends up reflecting what your gift is,
Mhm.
and you finally figure out how to relay it in a concise manner. I'm still working on that, by the way.
We
But
all are.
I think many of my clients come to me with the complaint that they are feeling overburdened and their team isn't engaged at the level they really want them to be. Their accountability isn't there. They don't get it. There's lots of different ways that's said. But the
Mhm.
reality is that when I start to talk to them about it, I have real empathy because I was there. You sleep with it, eat with it every day, every minute. You're looking through the lens of your business to know how to keep that plane you're building in the air
Yeah.
while you're building it.
While you're still building it. Yep.
That's right. And so you have that passion that drives you for whatever it is the business is about. And you know how to keep that plane in the air, even if, it gets into a nosedive. You're going to know gut instinct, you'll be able to jump in there and pull it out because
Right.
that's what an entrepreneur, a leader, an executive who's been in this business for a long time or has a deep passion for it. But what happens is you expect that of your team without really clear communication because you become the equivalent of nose blind, only you're really blind in terms of the lens that you look through every day is everything. And you hire someone and you give them a job description and you sit them down at their desk and you say, here's your
Go.
to-dos. This is your goal. And you don't, even if on the first day you walk them through the company and say, here's the vision and here we're going and all those things, that first day, if you started a new job, it's like, I'm drinking from a fire hose today.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Yeah, yeah. I need it smaller. Get it smaller. And so you get to your desk and you think, okay, I can do this. I can move this piece to this piece, but I don't really get this piece. And so what happens is there's a disconnect in how my desk fits into the landscape. And the leader is living with the landscape. So they're telling themselves, they just don't get it. And these guys don't even, they're not invited to lift their eyes to the landscape unless the leader does that. And so we have a long conversation about, where they're at, what their idea is, what would be perfect, what's terrible, how do we move these things out of your way? But oftentimes we end up in the prequel conversation. And that is, when you started your business, is this what you imagined? Is this what you wanted? And what is the real vision for your life? Like if all the stuff was working perfectly, where would you be today? And what is it really driving your life? And that comes from me because in my life, I never really stopped and thought about, and I'm going to get choked up here. I have 3 grown boys and they're men.
Wow.
They're 29, 25, and 21. So they would really hate me to say boys, but
Yeah.
they were my boys. And I
It'll
look
always be
back at
your
the
boys.
That's right. And I look back at the times where I was I was the regional sales manager for a marketing arm of the principal financial group, and I was a vice president of a bank, and I was a CEO of Catholic Charities. So I had a very, hopscotched industry career, but I was always in a leadership position. And I think about the number of times that I chose my job and the agency or the people that I worked with over the softball games or the water polo
Birthday
games, as it
parties
were.
or
My
the,
kids were all, yeah, and
yeah.
yeah. I will tell you, I was the birthday queen though. My
Oh,
kids all had extravagant birthdays, but that's a whole nother story. But I have those moments where I feel like, God, I wish I could go watch my oldest son play water polo again in high school because I missed a lot of those. And he doesn't feel cheated. I just do.
yeah.
And I look at the end of my life, what is the most important thing? What is it? It's the quality of the experiences and the people and the relationships that I have in my life. And so if I can help a leader to like step back from the landscape of the plane in the air for a minute and get some life balance and some
Some
vision about,
perspective.
where they really want to be, what makes them happy and fulfilled. Because once you get that vision and it's clear, then the business decisions become very easy because it
Ooh,
either supports that vision or it doesn't. And then, you also learn how to recognize that you shouldn't be on the back end of the bumper of the pickup truck that's your, business, holding on for dear life. You should be able to be living your life and have this truck be the
the
engine that
engine that
fulfills your
drives.
dreams.
And that
And
really
so,
confidence.
That's the prequel. And then we get into the teamwork and working on relationships and communication. Yeah.
Wow, that is really beautiful because um, so many people get lost in the minutia of the everyday and forget why they started it in the first place. Was
Or
to
they
have,
get disillusioned
or they get
because,
disillusioned.
they don't get into business to be an accountant or an
Yeah.
insurance expert or an HR person. They get into business because they have a passion for their product, service, etc.
And a lot
And
of
the
people do for
day-to-day
freedom.
operations are tough.
Yeah, they
Yes,
do it for that
exactly. They feel
freedom.
tied to it.
And then they end up tied to it. So they don't end up getting what it is that they started off that mission for. Um,
Exactly.
it's it's very important, to really have your vision, your mission, your purpose out there, or even if it's not the mission and the purpose, to really know why. Like you say with Simon Sinek, know why you're here doing what you're doing. And so you can build the mission and the vision on the way, but really knowing that deep reason why. And it's important to come back to that, because that is your foundation of confidence. Is if you really,
Absolutely.
if you're firm on that, then you can lead from that place. And I love that you say that when you have clarity in this area, the business decisions become so much easier, because if it supports it, it's a yes. If it doesn't support it, it's a no. And so many leaders, the clarity becomes muddied in the people problems and the business problems and the supply chain problems and all the fires that you have to put out,
Exactly.
and you lose sight of that thing. So that's great. And that's one reason to really have an executive coach or someone with a different lens, which is what I was trying to get to. Because when you say, as you were a leader and you were, doing all the things that you need to do to keep the business afloat and to transform, because you were really transforming an organization when you were working for the Catholic Charities. You were transforming from a mess to creating, prosperity again. That's hard work. And we get bogged down in the hard work. And you need that lens of someone else to help pull you out of it so that you can continue to do the thing that you're doing, but from a different perspective. So thank you for sharing that. That's really, really important. So closing communication gaps is one of the key areas that you help business owners work with. What are some of the challenges that you see or mistakes that leaders are making in that communication process?
Well, I think, beyond the invitation to look at the big picture and see where the individual employee fits in and where their team fits in, and there's kind of a lack of understanding, I think, in our entire country right now about financial literacy. And I think the word profit has become a very negative connotated word. We think of it in a negative way because of all the people over profits or profit over people and, the judgments that are going on around things. And I always want to, kind of go, psst, it's like the scales of justice. You cannot have a sustainable business if you do not have profit.
Yeah.
And so, to think about sustaining the lives of your employees, I don't know how many business owners I speak with that that carry that responsibility very heavily of making payroll every week and knowing that they're supporting families and that worry that everything has to come together and they have to be able to make their commitments is a huge burden. And so, I don't think that I've ever met, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people out there that value money over people, but I don't think that's the common denominator of business owners, especially not people that have found it and have a passion for something. I think that the intent is always positive. At least I've grown up always thinking I'm going to assume positive intent
Yeah.
in my conversations and interactions. So what I do think is that financial literacy piece is not conveyed very well.
Mhm.
And one of the things of having this for-profit and nonprofit experience in life, in leadership, is watching the door at Catholic Charities and the line around the block and down the street. And probably my most meaningful interaction was in maybe the fourth or fifth week that I was there. So you can imagine I was working very long hours, and it
Mhm.
was there was a lot. And I was going home late one evening, and this little boy rolled up on his bike. And he said, "Hey, do you work in there?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I was in the parking lot. And he said, "Do you know if they're going to have Christmas presents this year?" It was August. It was August.
Mhm.
And I looked at him and I got, this in my throat because I thought I have three little boys that don't think about Christmas until the lights go up and they know there's going to be Christmas presents under the
Under the
tree.
tree, right.
And I looked at him and I said, I am sure we're going to this year. And I got in the car and I thought, well, I have no idea if we do that or not, but we're going to have to do it now,
I just made a
But
promise.
that's right. But I guess the point being that I was always trying to make that line shorter and to make us to put us work us out of business, if you will. That was my
Mhm.
goal. And I found that the programs and the system and all of the different ways that people are given assistance don't really give them any tools
Mm,
to change their life. They
right,
give them a handout, they don't always give them a hand up.
right.
And and we condition people generation after generation that this is the best you could hope for. And I hate that. I hate that. And so for me, then I went to work in the for-profit world as a vice. Actually, I started out as an assistant vice president of the bank, and then I became a vice president in a particular department, which was the payments department. But one of the things the bank that I worked for was what we call an open book management company. So they talked about how the bank made money as a matter of course.
Mhm.
And we learned the financial flow of what revenue was, what profit was, what liability was, and how that all worked to serve the good of the bank's security and therefore our jobs.
Mhm.
And it was a wonderful way for people to begin to understand their paycheck is their revenue and their overhead is their rent and their car payment, and then their direct expenses are like food and clothing and entertainment and all those kinds of things. And so without putting them in a class or requiring them to attend something in order to get their aid or whatever,
Right.
where manipulation happens in the world of saving the poor,
Mhm.
they taught people how money flowed, and they just kind of took it in, and without anybody ever saying, this is your paycheck and this is how it works, they learned. And
Yeah.
then you see people changing their lives because they understand what cash flow is
Yeah.
and how if I pay off my debt, I have more cash every month. And if I manage that cash by investing in real estate or some other means that will, a savings account that will
Generate
be there for yes, it changes lives. And so for me, I got really passionate about giving
financial literacy.
employees more information. They
Mm,
don't have to know the bottom line and every single check that goes out of the business or anything about that. They need to know a general idea that if I, make a mistake and it costs the company money, how much revenue has to be generated to offset that mistake, and
mm,
how much, how does it impact the net profit if I save some money in the beginning? It goes, if I save money in the middle, it goes straight to the bottom line.
mhm.
So if I can do my job more efficiently and help the company to be stronger, then I have more security. And if I'm doing that, then I'm going to be rewarded as an employee because I'm accountable.
Yeah.
I'm, engaged. I'm caring, all of those things. And I think somehow it's like we're, you know,
Because you can't force feed
looking at
people
things
that.
behind it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has to be an environment that encourages that dialogue.
Yes.
So, we know there's a C-suite dialogue and there's a team dialogue, and there's
Yeah.
not
And
always a
there's
lot
a
of
gap in between.
communication between them.
Mhm.
And there's not very many people on the team that want to be the canary in the coal mine and go tell the C-suite what they really think, you know?
What's really going on down here?
That's right. So I think that the best ways to start that dialogue is at the C-suite, and that's why I really am coaching in that frame.
That's beautiful, wonderful. Um, there's one more question I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to go into rapid fire.
Okay.
So get yourself ready.
Okay.
So I want from your perspective, being that CEO, being that leader that you were all those years before, um, looking at the environment of work now, what's happening post pandemic, what do you see for the future of work and the future of leadership?
Great question. A first word that comes to my mind is hope.
Mm.
I think, the pandemic had horrible ripple effects, lives lost. My dear, dear, dear friend passed away in the first wave, and I have great empathy for all the loss that happened. But I will say, working from home allowed us to discover each other's humanity in a way that we never would have if we were all just still meeting at the water cooler. Because
Absolutely.
I don't know about how many conversations you had where somebody's child or their dog or somebody ran into the picture, but we
Yep.
got to see people at work and at home and in the context of their real life, not this bifurcated worker bee and then
So
the
much more
person who has fun on
compassion.
Friday. That's
Yeah, so
right.
much more compassion we gained through this
And
process.
and so for me, it's like the ability, we have hope that we're going to find a way to remember the humanity of each person within the context of the work environment as well, and believe in each other's goodness and develop conversations around how we can support each other, not just get the work done.
Mhm.
Because I think leadership is really about supporting your team in a way that we have not seen in the last four generations
Oh, yeah.
of workplace. And we're in a unique situation where we have five generations in the workplace right now.
No.
And we are being called by the younger set to open our eyes and to make life and work integrated and fun. I mean, people make fun of the millennials and that they just always want to have fun. Well, you know what? I think they have it right. I
Yeah.
think we need to learn from them because I think that the whole idea of living your life to the fullest, whether you're at work or at home, is the answer.
Yeah.
And when you were talking earlier about yes, when it feels right and when you're aligned and all those things, it reminded me of Alicia Keys' book and the story she tells about her. If it's not a resounding yes or a hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Right.
And I think that we lose our power in that when we try to just fit into the productivity mold. Kids that are growing up and getting, I've three of them in college and graduate school that have defined their success based on money. And money and going for money is a means goal. It's
Mhm.
not an end goal.
Yeah.
And if we can parlay people's vision into looking at what is the end result here. The end result is to live each day to the fullest, be grateful for what you have, and to enjoy every minute, not just the ones after 5 p.m. and before 8 a.m.
Oh, Friday, TGIF, woo, and go,
Exactly.
um, absolutely. And it, you said a couple things that, and I know I said that was the last question, but you said a couple things
I love
that,
that.
that prompted another one for me because the generations as well have this idea of service, and businesses should be in service, or have a bigger mission. They're very mission driven. So in addition to the fun, um, there is that mission driven, whether it's climate change, dealing with the climate, dealing with race, dealing with, let's put the issues on the table. This younger generation is like, let's put the issues on the table and solve this once and for all. Let's not continue this mess going forward. And that's very encouraging to see that their eyes are open and they're like, we're not doing business as usual. And the question that it prompted me was, have you found that more leaders are open to coaching than ever before?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I do. And it's funny, I am caregiving for my 86-year-old mom. So I'm living with the end of the World War II era, and thinking as we're talking about, the things, the way they approach life, what is good, what is right, what is, honest, loyal, truth, all that. But they have definite lines, hard lines about what is acceptable to need help with and what is not. And I think that's another thing that I love about the millennials. They're like constantly improvement. They're always looking for the newest, best thing, pushing the envelope. And when you were talking about purpose, to me, I think they're calling us to accountability, not to each other and not to the business, but to humanity.
Absolutely.
And I think
Oh, I got
accountability,
goosebumps.
yeah, I think accountability to our humanity and to each other and to the future of humanity.
To the
And
future, especially, yes.
and so, in terms of I've lost your question. I'm
I was just
sorry.
saying, if people are open to coaching.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So in terms of constant improvement, you can see it in KPIs and agility and all the different things that are supposed to be the newest, best way to get people moving in the right direction. And, or as I say it, rowing all of them in the same direction.
Right.
And I that visual to me of a crew on one of those long, thin boats, and they're all rowing, and you got somebody with their oar like this. It's like, we're trying to get everybody moving in the same direction. I think that's a goal of humanity right now. It's like, how do we make this world a better place? And with all of the things that are happening around us that are tragic and, mental health related and, polarizing and all of the things that are happening, if we each just do our best to pay it forward in a positive way, in the best way we can, and it's all going to be different, just like, the landscape of the world is patchwork quilt, we all bring something different. But if we can find a way to be accountable to one another and to humanity and give each other the benefit of the doubt, be better listeners than we are, judges,
Yeah.
I think we have a great future. I think there's hope. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately, I'm very excited to be in this role at this time in my life because I feel like I have enough mistakes behind me, enough experience, enough humility to say I don't have all the answers, but I've sure walked a few rocky paths.
And I can't close this down. Oh my gosh, I just love interviewing you. So what have you
Thank
taught?
you.
I know I'm getting to the rapid fire, but what have you taught your boys about leadership? Because you're a mom, a working mom, a leader, a CEO. What have you taught them about leadership and respecting everyone in that process? Women, whether they're women, they're of different persuasion, like what? Tell me.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'll tell you is, have you ever heard the saying, "You're not a prophet in your own land"?
Oh yeah, I live it. Yes.
So it's really only probably now that they're all over 21 that I'm beginning to hear the fruits of my labors in that regard. But, I was very proactive about finding good male role models for my kids when they were young. Lots of complicated reasons for that, but I will just tell you that was really important. And so I'm really happy to say that all of them get it.
Yes.
They are all, and they hate this when I bring this up, but all three of them are Eagle Scouts, and I do that only because as a mom, you get the first one over the line, then you just let peer pressure take over.
Yes.
It's like you don't want to be the one brother that didn't do it.
That didn't do it. Right.
So, but I think that experience of scouting was really, really impactful for them because of the men that were the leaders, and they were, really old-fashioned good guys, and accountable. Now, in terms of who they are as human beings, they are three very different people, and they have incredibly different gifts, but they are bonded. And I think that's the biggest gift I gave them was, they're 8 years apart, the oldest and the youngest, and the one in the middle is 4 years, the sandwich kid. And as they were growing, they would squabble and, stuff, typical boy things. And I'd sit them all down and I go, okay, listen to me. The only person that's going to be here cradle to grave with you is the one on your left and the one on your right. And if you screw this up, you never get another chance at it, because nobody else knows what this house was like but the three of you.
Yeah.
And it will be important as you get older.
Yeah.
So, that, and I did it regularly because that's something I really lost. I lost a brother who died at 18. I lost my father at 27. I have my mom and my sister, and that's it. And so that vacuum of, what happened in our childhood, and that coming together of knowing those things. My sister and I were pretty far apart. I lost. And so I really, impacted that. So now today they come and it's rare when they're all three home, but when they're all three home, nobody can get a word in edgewise. And I sit back and I go, was this a good idea? Or was this not? But at the end of the day, I know that they have each other's back. And that's really, that's the thing.
That's all you can hope for your children is to be best friends with each other.
Yes.
But that doesn't always happen.
But I tease them like they're sorority girls, because you can't tell one without the other one knowing within 5 minutes.
But it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. It
does.
And I love that. That's great. And I love, because mine are like 5 years apart. So it's 10 years from the first to the last. And
so you get it.
Yeah. And they're all very, very, close and connected. Give me
it's easy for them not to be. Oh, sure.
No, it wasn't me. Okay, so I have to cut this out. Good thing it's recorded.
No worries.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
So it's a good thing that you were intentional with them that far apart. And I think it's an easy thing to let go and kind of excuse by, they're never in the same thing at the same time. They're not in the same school at the same time. I had 1 year in their childhood where they were all three in one school. And it was kindergarten, 4th grade, and 8th grade, and that's it. And the rest of the time I was running ragged between 3 different schools.
Yeah, 3.
They were never
in the same school at the same time.
Yes.
But they are very close and bonded, and I'm so grateful and thankful for that they do have that kinship. I have 2 girls and a boy, so and even
that's great.
Their brother isn't left out of anything. He's in the mix with them. So it's great. All right, rapid fire. No more questions. Okay. I'm going into rapid fire.
Okay.
Because I can talk to you forever, but we only have a certain time. Yeah, I love everything that you're saying. So here we go. What's the biggest leadership mistake you ever made or was the victim of?
Oof. I think it's just mistaking my role as a leader, as the achiever, and not as the person in the back helping them get where they need to go. You started that one.
Yes. So what's the best advice you ever got that you still implement today?
Listen more than you talk, but I try really hard. I have actually my note that says, listen more.
It's hard.
As you can tell, I love to talk.
It is a challenge. It's a challenge. You have to sit on your hands or bite your nails when it's you know what you need to say, but I can't say it. I need them to I need them to understand and them to speak out and get to the right decision. But Yeah. All right. So this is an interesting one. It's if you were a castaway on a deserted island, what three things would you hope washed ashore or were airdropped to you that you couldn't live without? And one of them cannot be a cell phone.
Because that's exactly what I was thinking. Okay. Oh, that can live without moisturizer.
Oh, sunscreen and
That's
moisturizer.
my number one. Moisturizer or sunscreen,
Yeah.
both. um, let's see. My pillow. I really like my pillow. And can I have a pad of paper and a pen, or do I have to
Well,
just have a pen?
we can say stationary. that,
Okay.
that covers pad, paper, and pen.
Okay. Got
Stationary.
it.
That'll work for me. And then this question, if I can get my phone open again, it went to sleep on me. This is another very fun, interesting question. We talk about having fun. So, what song title, if you were a song, what song title will that be, or what song would that be? That's a stumper.
It is a stumper because I have so many. I am a student of lots of different music.
Genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
Mm-hmm.
something that's like
I'm just
eclectic
trying
or
to think.
fun or
Can I
something?
look at my phone?
You can look at your phone all you like. Yes,
I try to think of what really is my thing. I
it
what
doesn't have
the
to be your
very first
favorite
thing that
song.
came to me
Mhm.
was "Come Away with Me"
Why?
by
Nora
no,
Nora Jones.
yes, Nora Jones. Yeah, "Come Away with Me," and then the other one is it's BB and CC Winans, and I cannot think of the name of the song.
I'll take you there.
No, but I like that one. No, it's one. It's a. I can't even find my music app. That's how rattled I am.
No, you're now
Um,
unraveled.
I know. Here we go. Here it is. Here it is. I'll find it. Actually, I have the relationship CD of BB and CC Wine, and I cannot think of the name. It's like "Be Still," and it is "I Am Here." It's a stop and listen to your heart
Oh,
song,
that's
and
wonderful.
yeah, and
Well,
I just think that when we do that, when we all are aligned, it goes back to, talking to leaders about what is your vision for your life and what is the vision for your business, and is your business driving your life, or your vision, or are you being dragged along behind your business and hoping to squeeze in a life at some point? And
mhm.
I think that when we are aligned and living 100% in the essence of who we are created to be, then all that other stuff just kind of comes together.
Yeah. Ooh, love it. Love it. You can message me that song later and I'll put it
I
in the
will. I'm totally
message me
going
that
to.
song. Yeah. So I'll put it there. So people who are now listening to this
Dying.
are
What
like,
is that song?
what is that song? We'll have it in the show notes.
Yes.
And then the last rapid fire question I have is, what book are you reading now?
Oh, it's great. It's called It Doesn't Hurt to Ask.
Ooh.
And it's by a former congressman, but it's not a political book. I was listening to it this morning. It's called Don't Doesn't Hurt to Ask, sorry, by Trey Gowdy. And it's about persuasion and questioning. And his opening, I'm in the very beginning of it, I'm reading it at book club, but it's just about the way you persuade people to open their minds,
Mm,
and that it is through questioning, it is not through telling.
nice. I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being so open, so generous with your time and your intellect and your
Oh.
experiences. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Catherine, for
Well, I am giving you a virtual hug, and extending the Fitzgerald hospitality. I always say this to people: if you come to California and you don't call me, I will be upset. You need to come
Oh,
to, I love to cook, I love to host, and I'm in a spot in California where you get to just about anywhere in a half a day.
I will be there in
So,
January. At least I know that
oh,
for sure. Coming January, maybe before, but I'm definitely going to
okay.
be there in January, and
Well, look me up.
I will look you
Yes.
up. So you can reach out to Catherine. Her LinkedIn. Her link will also be in the show notes to check her out, but it's Catherine Fitzgerald. So check her out and let her know.
Catherine A. There's a bunch of
Catherine
Catherine
A.
Fitzgeralds.
Fitzgerald. Catherine A. Fitzgerald. So make sure you let her know when you reach out that you heard her here on Leading with Audacious Confidence. So
Oh, thank you so much, Alicia.
you're welcome. All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will be back with another episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. So go ahead and lead yourself, lead your teams, and lead your organization with audacious confidence. And we'll see you next time. Bye.